Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Wired Hoops. This is basically just going to be a podcast for everything related to basketball and culture. And yeah, that's about it. We're just three guys who love basketball. I'm AJ.
Hey, I'm Almantaz.
What's up, y'all? My name is Nazim.
Yeah, we're just all three guys from Brampton, Ontario. All Raptors fans except for Amatos. Screw him. Nobody likes him. He's a big Bron fan.
Bro, Lakers
We have
Nation out here.
long-term
Lakers
friends
Nation,
I'm
bro.
not going to mention. But
Lakers Nation.
yeah, we just love talking about basketball. We love to argue about basketball, debate. So we're like, you know what? Why not we just make a podcast, right? If you guys enjoy, yeah, please keep looking out for episodes. Follow us on our Instagram at Wired Hoops. And yeah, there's more content coming your way. We're planning on doing a podcast once a week and try to cover as much topics as possible. If you like, stick around. And yeah, let's get started, guys. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good.
What about you?
Yeah, decent.
Yo, I'm kind of blessed, but I can't even lie, bro. I woke up this morning on the wrong side of the bed, and my neck is just dead, dude. I'm like my head's just like completely slanted, bro. It's not looking good today.
Man, I couldn't sleep, bro. Too excited for opening night today, bro. Lakers at Clippers.
Oh, true. Yeah, guys, we are recording this on opening night, and we're gonna be talking about our predictions and stuff like that. So, leave your predictions. Let us know. DM us your predictions. Yeah, today's opening night. I'm excited. What is it like? Nets, Warriors, and Lakers, Clippers.
Yeah, man.
Who got winning?
I think Lakers gonna win, and I'm pretty sure the Nets are gonna beat the Warriors.
Yeah, I think the same thing too. What do you think, Nazem?
I think Warriors take this one against the Nets. Yeah, I don't think the regular season matters that much for the Nets this year.
Yeah, but like honestly, they look good. Like chemistry between
they look nice.
and Durant. They look good. And with Curry alone, like I don't know how it's gonna work. Like I know Oubre is pretty good, but we haven't seen him much during the preseason. We haven't seen Wiseman at all either. So it's gonna be interesting to say the least. I think the matchups tonight are good. Lakers, Clippers. I don't even know. It's just really. I think it all depends on how well the Clippers mesh. To be honest, this season.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. Let's see how Ty Lue, works around with the team that he has.
Yeah, hopefully it's just not give Kawhi the ball and get out of the way. You know, say it back and throw back to like 2018 LeBron.
Yeah.
It all depends. I think there's a lot of mystery surrounding this Clippers team. And I don't know if you guys saw Doc Rivers' comments today about Paul George. Yeah, he said something. He was just talking about how, Paul George struggled in the bubble and that he needed someone to blame for his struggles. Right? Yeah. Making excuses, So I don't know if there's gonna be a mentality switch in Paul George. Like, what's he gonna do? Because he did really struggle, and there's a lot of memes about it. So, I mean, we'll see. I still got Lakers and Nets.
I think that's
definitely gonna be cool.
Culture change, regarding the Clippers, a culture change in general. Like, I feel like there was too many personalities in that locker room.
Facts, dude. That's actually so true.
You had Pat Bev, Marcus Morris, who came in. And then you had Paul George and Kawhi.
Yeah, for sure. I was really surprised at this whole, when I heard the news, a lot of Clippers players were upset about Kawhi getting, special treatment. Because especially here in Toronto, you never heard of anything like that. He didn't seem like a guy with like a really big ego, at least up here to like us Toronto fans. We never really saw that. I guess maybe just in the one season he was with us. But you're seeing a lot more drama with Kawhi Leonard. Of course, there was a lot of drama in San Antonio. But, that's the side of him that I never really thought about and didn't really think was there, That was really shocking to me, to be honest.
Yeah, I think with the Raptors, it was a little different because, we had this one group that's been there,
Yeah.
And I think there was this, because they gave up DeMar, I think there was this desperateness that, Kawhi's only here on a 1-year deal. We got to do whatever we can,
Right. And I think they also had like one mentality, like they had one goal, not everyone in Toronto has egos. Like everyone knows what they want there. Like everyone knew, you had Norm, you had OG, Kyle, all these guys, they want to go for a championship and that's all they care about. And they have like this brotherhood. And I think that makes the difference too,
Yeah.
But you're right. Definitely about the Clippers and their personalities, with Trez gone and Ibaka coming in, maybe that changes, the dynamic of that locker room.
Helps. I think that helps for sure.
Yeah,
because I think I don't know if a lot of outsiders would know about this, but like Serge in Toronto, he was definitely like a glue guy, with all of his like fashion stuff and like the memes and his cooking show. He brought the guys together, I feel, really well. And I think the Clippers are going to definitely gel better this season.
And I feel like there has to be some effect of like blowing a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets, like at the back of their head. I mean, they have that mentality to prove something this season. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
if they don't have that, then it's all over. And I think that's the thing that kind of worries me, because like with guys like Paul George, I mean, Paul George has been through so much in his career with like the major injury in 2014, right? He's definitely been one to bounce back. But when it comes to like sort of these pressures from like the media, from the community, or like the community, like the NBA community, I guess you could say, he hasn't been really one to step up to the challenge, like especially that's the thing that kind of worries me. Like, is he going to have that mentality? Like, I know for sure Kawhi will, because Kawhi was playing out of his, like he was playing really well in the bubble until just that last game, right? And you already know he's going to be fired up and angry and, much more focused this time. But I'm still worried about Paul George.
Yeah. I think
we just got to see
that,
like tonight. Yeah.
I think they need that leader. They still need that one other leader,
For sure.
You know how Raptors had Lowry, who was that main leader?
Yeah.
The Clippers still need that. Like Lowry, he would be the perfect guy for the Clippers, like on the court and off the court. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he brings both sides of the game.
Right.
And he brings his leadership and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think they need someone that leader who's been through it.
Right.
Like as much as
Popovich said something like that too, right? Like when Kawhi got traded, like he said something about Kawhi not being a leader, right? And that presence in the locker room.
Yeah, because he's always been around those leaders. Tim Duncan, Manu, Tony Parker. Right. He's always been around those guys. So I think Kawhi needs a leader beside him to succeed.
Yeah,
for sure. I like either he, because I think I was listening to Stephen A. the other day, and he was talking about Kawhi Leonard. And he just went off on him. Like, how are you getting paid, so much money? And then there's so many scandals around you too, right? With this whole Uncle Dennis thing about asking for illegal stuff. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but there's a lawsuit going on. I'm pretty sure you should know about that. Like, there's a whole lawsuit between some dude and Jerry West.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name exactly, but talking about how he helped Kawhi Leonard get there. Right. And that kind of all sparked this conversation. Like, what type of leader is Kawhi Leonard, and why isn't he charging his team forward? When they're up 3-1, you got to be that guy that says, guys, we got to stay focused. We got to, we got to do it whatever we can. Right.
Yeah.
But he's more of that quiet presence. And I don't think he had that. Like, for example, a guy like LeBron, he makes his teammates better, but he knows for a fact, like, listen, we got to do this now. Right. Going back to 2016 and the 3-1, right, when they were down 3-1, I remember I read something that said that LeBron went into the locker room and said, if you don't think we can come back down, you just leave. Don't come. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's that sort of like presence that he had on that team, and that sort of mentality shift that he kind of instilled in that Cavs team that really helped them, I think. And Kawhi just hasn't been able to do that.
You need that, right? You need your leader to do something. You need your leader to close out games. Like, your leader just can't go scoreless in the fourth quarter, right?
For sure. Yeah. It's just one of those. Sorry, what were you saying?
Continue. No, you continue.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, that comes with being, great. I guess even MJ, like, of course, people are saying that he was a pretty, like, kind of an asshole, right? But, he came in and he led by example really well. He was cocky and whatever, but he showed up every single time, right? And that's how he led. Right. And his teammates saw him, be like, whoa, this guy's going like partying at like 3 a.m., comes back, drops 45 on the team. Right.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, at least even that motivates your teammates. Right. But Kawhi doesn't do anything. He's just a quiet, like, I don't want to say it. He's kind of a bitch. Like, he just kind of sits there quietly, does his own thing. Like, you can't do that. And I think that's what Stephen A. was pointing to as well. Like, you can't just do that. You can't be quiet. You can't put up 27 a game and that's it. You got to actually be there for your teammates. You got to actually bond with them. You got to make sure they're all on the same page and they don't feel, that you're getting special treatment or whatever.
Yeah, you got to be vocal, man.
For sure.
So that's the thing, like, they fired Doc Rivers, put they move what do you call Tyronn Lue from assistant to head coach, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's enough because when Tyronn Lue was with the Cavs, right? They had that LeBron, offensive piece. I feel like
right.
And in Toronto, Kawhi, he had what's it called? He had Lowry. He had Nick Nurse, who was also vocal.
Yeah.
So
Lue isn't that kind of guy. He's kind of a
he's not that guy.
Kind of a yes man, to be honest.
I think they have to definitely make some moves. Whether it comes with moving out Lue, Pat Bev, maybe Marcus Morris close to the trade deadline if he doesn't work out.
Right.
I think Luke Kennard is good. He's a stepping stone to fixing some of their needs or helping with some of their needs.
Yeah.
I don't think it helps. I think they're still a couple steps away from matching up with the Lakers.
Speaking of like couple steps, let's look at some other steps that teams have been taking recently. So let's just talk about free agency real quick. First things first, Rudy Gobert, guys, 5 years, $205 million. What are you guys' thoughts?
Overpaid.
Yeah, obviously overpaid, but you have to look at the small market situations,
Yeah. So that's kind of what I was thinking too, and like I'm just looking at my notes here. So I think the general public response was that he was definitely overpaid, right?
Yeah.
But again, you got to look at how Utah is a very small market, and Gobert is huge for the Jazz. Like they need him, to be this competitive team that they are. And because of that, his value to the Jazz is like definitely much higher. Like it's worth the 205 mil, right?
For the Jazz, it's worth 205 mil, but for any other team, I don't think like any other bigger market team, because Utah is really small. Like it's the lowest of low, small market teams. Because they're not attracting anyone with, being in Utah.
Yeah.
I think for any other team, it's an overpayment, but like what he brings to the Jazz, like his defensive impacts, like without Rudy, they're not even a top 10 defensive team. But the second he comes back in the lineup, they're a top 3, top 2 defensive team.
Right. And I think this kind of shows, I think Utah is just, they're going for a win now, right? Rudy Gobert right now is 28 years old. And, with this extension, because technically he's still on payroll for this year, so the extension is going to activate after this season. So he's going to be on the payroll for the next 6 years. That's until he's like at least 33, right? 33, 34, right? Will his play style still be, available or like viable in 5 or 6 years down the line? Because as the modern big man comes in, we see guys like Wiseman, Wendell Carter Jr., Cat sort of take over the league. These young centers who are, stretch bigs, who can take you in the post, who can defend. Right? As they take over the league, is Gobert's value still going to be that high? Right? And I think that's a risk that the Jazz knew about and they were willing to take. And this also shows that after this bubble season and they seen how crazy Donovan Mitchell was playing, because he was playing out of his mind in that series. Yeah. I think they do believe that Donovan Mitchell is going to take like an all NBA jump these next couple of years and lead them to the finals and championship.
I don't think it's enough for the Jazz. Like speaking overall, like Mitchell and Gobert, they're not good enough to win a ring. So I don't think,
that's what I'm saying. Like they think that Donovan Mitchell is going to take that jump. Like he's going to take that all NBA type, best player in the league type caliber jump. That's what they think, right? And honestly, after looking at the bubble season, I do think so as well. Because, if we look at the parts around Mitchell and Gobert, right? You got Bogdanovich, great offensive player. You can put up 20 points at like any day, right? You look at Mike Conley. Conley is a really good player. I think, if you go back to his Memphis days, he was clutch. He's a good defender, good dribbler, good ball handler. I think he just struggled a bit this season, and he was getting better throughout the regular season. But, so if they can find that sweet spot, I think now with like this extended rest, I mean, not as much because they were in the bubble, but, with this sort of extended time between, the stopping the season and the bubble and then a little more of an off season now, I think they've had more time to kind of gel, right?
Yeah.
And I think the Utah backcourt is going to be something to see, because I think, Mitchell's a decent defender. He's not amazing, but he's still pretty solid.
He's good.
Yeah. but he's of course known for, and he's going to be carrying most of the offensive load with Bogdanovic, right? I think their starting lineup is definitely competitive. It depends on how good Mitchell does and how well Mike Conley plays. But the thing that worries me is definitely their depth.
Yeah.
Well, they did bring in what they have. Okay, so they have Joe Ingles, they have Royce O'Neal, right?
Royce O'Neal's pretty solid. I think they brought in Derek Favors too, but he's still getting up there in the age.
Yeah, he's getting up there, but it's a really nice deal. $9 million a year. That's really nice. They re-signed Jordan Clarkson, which is good. And then
but there's a lot of, I feel like, unproven players. Like you have George Niang. He's a solid player. I think Niang is pretty good, but he's again unproven, right? You don't know much about him. You don't see him much on the box score, right?
Yeah.
He's one of those players that you can't really count on to do something, right? You know, all role players, they do like all good role players, they do something at like a really good level, right? Even if it's just one thing. I don't think Utah has very many role players that they can count on to do like one really solid thing, you know?
So I think
that's just the thing that worries me.
So I think like the top 8 is good, and then after that it drops off major, a big drop off, So I think
like how are they going to compete with like, the defending champs, the Lakers, right? Who they added depth this offseason somehow. They got Trez, they got Schroeder. Like, even though they lost, Dwight Howard and Rajon Rondo, they still got back, I think, even better pieces. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes. I guess the consensus, majority rules here that, Gobert, definitely a bit overpaid, right? But, we just got to see into the future because the Jazz, they definitely are putting all their chips in one basket on Donovan Mitchell, right? If he can make that big jump to become an MVP caliber, a consistent top 10 player in the league, right? But at the same time, like I'm not certain if they can compete with the rest of the West, right? You got teams coming up like the Mavericks, you got the Suns, the Clippers, the Lakers, of course, the Nuggets, Trailblazers. Like there's so many teams. I could list so many other teams that are coming up, right? Memphis. So are they really going to be able to compete with that? That, I guess, is to be seen.
Okay, so for me, the thing is, for this season, as long as they have Conley, and if he plays as he's expected, I think their ceiling is Western Conference Finals. I think they can make a push. I don't think they can go any further. I think, secondly, so Mike Conley's contract expires after this season, right? Going into next year, and maybe let's say 3 years down the line, right, when the Lakers aren't that big of a without LeBron. Let's say LeBron retires 3 years from now, right?
Right. We can't even say that. This dude, his the way he maintains his body and his conditioning. I can see him play for so long.
Let's say the Lakers aren't the same Lakers that they are today, right? Obviously, because LeBron's going to get older. I think that with Gobert, Mitchell as their core, I think 3 years down the line with Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, Mavs, I think they can compete, but I don't think they can compete to the level that they can compete today.
Right.
And
I just don't understand that how you justify giving Gobert such a big contract then, right? Like, it's tough. They're in a tough spot right now. Yeah. But let's see what happens. Let's hope for the best. I really do want to see the Jazz make some noise. I think they're a bit of an underrated team this season. But yeah. Also, I just got some news that James Wiseman's actually going to be starting tonight for the Warriors. So that might change a few things. Does that change any of you guys' predictions?
No, he's a rookie, man. Come on now.
I think I'm going to stay firm in my prediction, but we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how Wiseman plays out. But let's keep moving.
I really want to see the Steph Curry, James Wiseman pick and roll,
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty cool. Because if it's anything like the Bogut pick and roll, but of course Wiseman's a lot more athletic. He can shoot a little bit more.
Yeah, so I think because Curry hasn't played with the elite or at least above average center yet.
Yeah,
I think it's nice. So it's the Warriors have a different system. I think it's going to be a change system because obviously they don't have Klay Thompson anymore.
Right.
This season. Yeah, I want to see Steph Curry. He's definitely going to get more pick and roll. So I want to see what he can do with that.
For sure, for sure. Yeah,
And I
it
want
might
to see
be like closer to how it was in it early in his career because he used to run a lot of pick and rolls. Back when before the
David
coach
Lee.
before Steve Kerr, I can't remember his name, but yeah, back when David Lee was on the team, right? He used to run a lot of pick and roll mid-range shots, right? So we'll see. It'll be interesting how Steve Kerr decides to shape this team's identity. But yeah, let's move on. Next is Kyle Kuzma. He got a 3 years, $40 million extension. I think this is a pretty good deal, guys. What do you guys think?
I think this is definitely if there's any of the like from the contract extensions that we've seen, I think this is probably the most overpaid one in my opinion. Because
really,
yeah, okay. Look, in the bubble, he was good defensively. Like certain times, he was good defensively. Like against the Rockets, he was pretty good.
Right.
But he's not consistent. You haven't seen.
No, for sure. He's definitely very inconsistent.
Yeah, and offensively, his shooting is limited. You know, what was he averaging? Close to 32% from three.
Yeah,
I don't think that's not 13 million. You're not getting 13 million to shoot. What do you call it? 32% from three.
I have to disagree with you on this because I think Kuzma is a really solid scorer, and I think in the eyes of other NBA GMs, he does have a lot of trade value, right? I think that given the opportunity, Kuzma could really develop into a really strong scorer, like 20 plus points per game, kind of like a Bogdanovich type player, but maybe a little bit more athletic, a bit taller, right? Because looking through preseason, Kuzma was balling out. He's got a couple dribble moves, right? He has some go-to moves that he can use. His 3-point shot was looking nice. Of course, his finishing is a bit questionable at times, right? And so is his defense. But I think this season, Kuzma is going to turn a lot of eyes, I think, especially as kind of cementing himself as his third option. But I think that since he's only making 13 million a season, right? I think that's pretty good for the Lakers because if they do decide to trade him down the line, it's not like an insanely expensive contract that no one wants to take on, right? Kuzma still has potential, and it's not that bad of a contract as well, to be honest, to trade. So I think it's a good decision by the Lakers. What do you think, Ambitos? You're a Lakers fan. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, I'm a Lakers fan, so I think it's a good deal, right? So Kuzma, so we have LeBron and AD now, so he's not going to get a lot of opportunities, right? So I still think he needs to work on his shot, right? He needs to make the majority of the shots he gets, right? That's why he can ensure that he's going to be on the roster for the years to come.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel he's highly replaceable, right? It's you can just trade him and get more assets because like Ayush mentioned, he's a lot of GMs would love to have him on their team rather, right? So I think it's a good deal, personally.
I think it's just playing in LA just gives him a heightened trade value. I think just playing us alongside LeBron, right? Yeah. But I think that's just probably the biggest reason why this contract is good because they can still trade him if they want to, right? If they want to go after a third star, or if they feel like they have holes in their roster, right? They could definitely make a solid trade around Kuzma. Sure. Okay. So the next one, so a couple others that crept up on us. So we got Luke Kennard, 4 years, 64 million. Nazem, what do you think?
I think if he works out in the system, so like I said, he brings that playmaking ability. So with the Pistons last year, he averaged 4.1 assists, right? I think there's definitely more potential. He can probably average closer to 6, maybe even 7 sometimes with the Clippers because of how many options they have with Kawhi, Paul George, Marcus Morris, and stuff like that.
Right.
So I think it's pretty good if he fits in the system. I think you have to give it at 1 year. Let's see what happens, and then move on from there.
Yeah, I think it's kind of just he improved a lot from his rookie season to the second season last year. I think he played really well. But I still think that the Clippers are putting a bit too much faith in him. I don't think he's proved enough to get this kind of money. 4 years, 64 million. That's a lot, for a guy who's coming off that's a huge rookie extension, right? I think he was worth more Kuzma money, 3 years, 40 million. I think I would be down for that. But again, he does bring good shooting, good playmaking. I think if he works out, he could be a good replacement to Lou Will. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
On the offensive end.
But the thing is, the LA Clippers, they need a future right now, right? They sold they sent all their draft picks. They don't have any future. Okay,
Right.
so they need young assets right now, and like Luke, like he came off averaging like 16 points last season, so like he's a good asset. I think it's a good deal for the Clippers, right?
He did look good in the preseason, though. I don't know if you guys saw. He had a couple of 20-point games, if I'm not wrong, but he does look good. I'm wondering what this means for Lou Will, though, because as I said, like he is technically, he can do a lot of things that Lou Williams can do, right? And again, if we're going back to like the whole personalities thing, right? I mean, Luke Kennard, he's just a rookie, right? I mean, you haven't heard about him having locker room issues or anything at all, right? And only time will tell. But I think this is this sort of deal is pointing towards perhaps a Lou Williams trade or any of something along those lines, of Lou Williams perhaps leaving the team, right? But yeah, I think overall this deal can definitely be a hit or miss. It really just depends on how well he goes in the system.
For sure.
The next one is the next two are Orlando Magic. So we got Markelle Fultz, 3 years, $50 million. Like,
wow.
I just want to say, first of all, I'm really happy for Fultz, right?
Yeah.
I think that he's been through a lot in his career with his injuries. And he's still recovering. Now, like you can definitely tell, but he feels a lot more confident. I'm just really excited for him to get back out there, right? Keep proving himself to the league, and it's just good that he's getting some guaranteed money now. He's on contract for a couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. Like I still kind of forgot that free throw, man. He forgot how to shoot, and now he's like, he's improving for sure. Yeah, he's improving.
That was horrible, man. Yeah. It's the amount of embarrassment he must have been through, and it's not even his fault. His shoulder. It's tough, but he's still not a good shooter. Like I think I was looking at a Basketball Reference. He's like 27% from three, something along those lines. But he is getting better, and I think the Magic are desperate for a point guard right now because DJ Augustine just left for the Bucks.
Yeah, the Bucks.
Right? Yeah. And they definitely need a scoring point guard, and I think Markelle Fultz can bring that to the team. He's also a solid playmaker. I like to say, just looking at his stats. Let me just pull this up real quick.
Yeah, he can take at the rim, man.
Yeah, and he can finish at the rim too. He's pretty good. So last season, in 27 minutes, he averaged 12 points, but more importantly, he averaged 5 assists, which is pretty solid, right?
Yeah.
Not as great for a point guard, but in just 28 minutes per game, I'd say that's pretty good. And yeah, so yeah, he shot 27% from three, actually, not 28%, but his field goal percentage was solid too. So he was definitely a solid slasher, right? Inside the paint, he was pretty good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the Magic just definitely needed to get this deal done. They needed a point guard for the future, and they believe it's Markelle Fultz. So I think it's a pretty good deal. What do you think, Nazem? You haven't said much.
Wait, so for me personally, I don't know if it necessarily means that Markelle Fultz is the point guard for the future because they just drafted Cole Anthony this year.
Right.
For me, I would have liked maybe a 2-year deal where after this season, Markelle Fultz starts coming. He comes off the bench. Cole Anthony starts.
Right.
I don't think I like a 3-year deal isn't even that bad necessarily. If Cole Anthony can gel into that player we've all expected him to be before the college season started, we're expecting him to be that top 5 pick, that PG who could do it all.
Yeah.
So I think it's not bad as long as they give. You don't want happening what's currently happening with Mo Bamba, right? How he's not getting any playing time.
Right.
You want that happening with Cole Anthony. You still want Cole Anthony to get, at least the 20 minutes this year. And, next year, I think
for sure.
I'm Rocket, Magic head coach, starting Cole Anthony next year. And I'm trading Nick Vucevic and Aaron Gordon this year and just letting your young guys grow. So I think that's
you're talking about like a full rebuild. And I think I got to agree with that because Orlando's in like NBA purgatory right now, right? They're not good enough to make any noise, right? But they're not also bad enough to get any good picks, right? And they have to really choose like what they want to do.
Yeah.
With regards to like point guard of the future, what I kind of meant by that is that, like depth at the point guard position, right? I think that with DJ Augustine gone, that was a huge blow for them because he was a pretty solid scorer for them down the stretch of games, right?
Yeah.
And he was also a solid ball handler as well. But I think at least because Cole Anthony, I feel like is a very long-term project. I mean, he showed flashes of greatness in his preseason games, for sure. but I still think that he's going to be a little bit of a long-term project, especially with his injury history. I think the Magic just really want to see and make sure that he's going to stay healthy, right? And they want to see him grow to his potential. But you do want to have like a backbone, and I think that's what they're going for with this Markelle Fultz extension.
I think the problem with the Magic is also their coaching. Steve Clifford isn't good enough he's not the coach that you want for a team that's going into a rebuild. Hopefully,
for sure.
I hope that they go into a rebuild. And he hasn't been playing Mo Bamba. He hasn't been playing the young guys enough.
You reminds me of Thibodeau, Loki.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, in that sense. But I mean, just get him to Philly, man. No, I'm kidding. But just to reunite with Dwight Howard. But yeah, I think you're right about that. But yeah, it's time for the Magic to choose, right? And moving next on to Jonathan Isaac's 4-year, $80 million extension, right? I think they should move into a full rebuild because this guy has like tremendous potential.
Yeah, he has potential, right? For sure.
He just needs to stay healthy though.
He's not injured.
Yeah, exactly. He just needs to stay healthy. That's literally it. When he's healthy, he can be a DPOY candidate, 100%. We're not going to see him on the floor this season, but I am really, really, really hoping. Like I'm praying that he comes back next season. He has an explosion because even in the bubble, he was playing amazing before he went down.
Yeah,
and I think 4 years, 80 million. I think it's just right because it's not like a max deal or anything, right? He hasn't shown that. He hasn't proven that, but it still gives him time to develop, right? And also gives time for the Magic to, I guess, kind of decide and kind of evaluate their roster, and especially Markelle Fultz and Jonathan Isaac, and see how that works long term. But yeah, I think this was a good deal for the Magic. I think both of these were pretty good. Making sure that they have their future locked in, at least in terms of Markelle Fultz, having a backbone on at that point guard position if Cole Anthony doesn't work out, and Jonathan Isaac, he's your star, right? If he's healthy. So I think that's good. And then I think the final extension, OG Anunoby, 4 years, $72 million. Thank goodness, man. The Raptors lost too many players this season. I think this is a big dub for the Raptors.
It's the same thing as a Utah thing, right? Like we're not a small market, but it's like not a lot of players want to sign with us, right? So we just gotta like hand the players that are playing well with the Raptors the bag. So we had to give OG the bag, right? We had to make him stay.
And for sure, I think that right now he's definitely like a defensive player of the year caliber player. I think he's been developing into that. But then he also, I don't know, like I think we all can agree on this. He kind of reminds us of a young Kawhi, right?
Yeah.
Like in terms of his raw potential, he has the defensive instincts. He's a great defender. He was defending LeBron in the playoffs in his rookie year in 2018. Yeah. Didn't go well, but that just shows, that the trust that the team has in him. And I think with this 4 year, $72 million extension, I think they're putting that trust in the training staff and the development team along with OG to keep getting better. Because every single season he's come back and he's gotten better. His dribbling, his finishing, his shooting have all gotten better every single year. And I think at some point in these next 4 years, I think he's going to turn a lot of heads. And I think he's going to finally become that player that, that he's going to finally cap or live up to his potential, sort of.
Yeah, for sure.
He's definitely not an overpayment. He's right where I expected the Raps to pay him. Exactly.
Right.
I predicted it in the group chat, right? I said $18 million a year.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I got, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's also good. I think the Raptors did a good job with their signings. Van Vliet wasn't overpaid. He was solid. I think it was around 80-something million, 85, 86 million. OG, 72 million. I think we're in a good spot still for free agency if we want to make a splash. But again, Giannis, with him re-signing, I don't know what the Raptors are going to look towards. But, in Masai, we trust.
Yeah.
So now, guys, that's pretty much all the free agency news.
We still have the Derek White extension.
Oh yeah, yes, the Derek White extension. I actually completely forgot about that. Yeah, Nazem, take away. I completely forgot.
Okay, so you got 4 years, 73 million. Average is 18.25 million. Me personally, I seen a lot of comments or Twitter comments that were saying that it's an overpayment. I don't think so, because after this year, the Spurs are going into full rebuild mode, and I think
right,
you're paying DeJounte Murray $16 million average, so you're with your backcourt, so Derek White and DeJounte Murray are going to be your backcourt of the future. You're paying them around $34 million. I don't think that's in any way that's a bad deal.
Right.
Yeah.
I kind of have to disagree though, because you still have Lonnie Walker. Like Lonnie Walker, when he was healthy, dude, he was balling, man. Like he was really good. And I think he's definitely someone that they need to pay attention to. I think with this deal, they're kind of going away from that. I don't know if I like that decision from the Spurs though, because Derek White, I feel. Sorry, what were you saying?
I was gonna say that I don't know if they're necessarily neglecting Lonnie Walker. I think it's that they want to go full youth mode after this season. So I think Lonnie Walker is gonna be somewhat in their lineup. They're gonna add him, and they also have Keldon Johnson, Lucas Samanik. They have a lot of young guys. So I think if you embrace the youth, I think there's a way to work around it.
Right. But there's just a lot of players at that, 1 guard, 2 guard position that they have a lot of potential, and I don't want them to kind of neglect that, because Lonnie, I feel like a guy like Derek White or Keldon Johnson, I think they have more, they have high floors, but not as high ceilings. You feel me? Like I don't think that they could get much better than they are right now, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like Lonnie Walker needs to be given more, because Lonnie Walker, he has a super high ceiling. He could become like an all-star caliber player, right? And I think they need to kind of develop him more in that aspect. They did it with Kawhi. They should start doing that and focus on Lonnie Walker to be that future.
But the one thing that I'm confused about is after this year, do you go ahead with Pop? And if you don't, who do you bring in to replace him?
True. Are we even sure that the Popovich wants to do this whole rebuild thing, right? Or does he even want to retire? Does he want to go somewhere else? It's
tough because
it's gonna be interesting to see.
You should just retire,
man. But then, is there a coach for the Spurs that will embrace that full youth movement?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the good coaches are sort of taken now, but I mean, I feel like there's always going to be some hidden gems somewhere, right? Especially in Popovich's coaching staff. Is Tim Duncan willing to take the reins? Because he is on that assistant staff, right? Is he willing to take the reins after Pop is gone and kind of become the head coach? Maybe the other assistant head coaches of the Spurs, maybe they take over. I mean, who knows, man? And I think there's also Becky Hammond, right? I think she's also on.
Yeah, she's the one. Yeah, I think she's the one that should be in the head coach position. Because
I think she's been with Pop the longest, and I don't know if you guys have seen seen some clips, but you definitely see her going back and forth with Pop a lot. Right, you see that she's getting a lot of information and sort of knowledge off of him, right? And I think there was like this one time where Popovich didn't want to use his coach's challenge, and Becky Hammond kind of convinced him to, and it worked out in the end, right? So it's just kind of showing those those coaching instincts and those instincts as just a good coach. And I think that she has potential to maybe take over as well. I'm sure she wouldn't say no.
Yeah. I don't think anyone would say no, right?
For sure. And I think it'd just be good for the league in general, just move forward, with this whole, with this whole social dynamic. But
yeah, I think she would be the first female head coach, right? If she is,
I believe so. Yeah. So that would be pretty cool for the league as well in terms of pushing their social agenda forward. But yeah, that's I think that's about it for the extensions, right?
Yes. So do you guys want to talk about how Lonzo, Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, and Jarrett Allen?
Yeah, okay, you know what? Those are actually pretty important. So John Collins didn't get an extension. Markkanen didn't get an extension. Lonzo didn't get an extension.
And for me, it was all about Jarrett Allen, man. This guy deserves an extension.
Jarrett Allen didn't get an extension either. But that's interesting, though, because maybe the Nets are looking to trade him.
Who would trade Jarrett Allen? Are they going to play DeAndre Jordan? Come on now. Jarrett Allen's a solid center.
But they also have Claxton, too. Claxton's a center, I believe.
I mean,
the thing with DeAndre Jordan is that you can't move him because he's the reason why KD and Kyrie signed there. Like
Yeah, exactly.
you pushed him to signing there, so you can't necessarily move DeAndre Jordan. And I don't think you can sign Jared Allen to that big contract right now because you haven't seen him play with the Stars. So I think they're waiting. I think they'll re-sign him, but it will be in free agency.
Perhaps, yeah. But I think they're also trying to give Nicholas Claxton a little bit of. I think this move might give Nicholas Claxton a bit more minutes. I think he should get more minutes now. KD and all a lot of the players on the Nets, Dinwiddie, they all talk about how good Nicholas Claxton is, right? But he hasn't gotten many minutes, like 12 and a half minutes in his rookie season. That's not a lot, right? So this might be this might give them a chance to go after, like you can use Jared Allen as a trade piece to go after another star and maybe give Claxton more minutes off the bench, bring DJ into the starting lineup, right? So we all have to wait to see it, but I was shocked. But the biggest thing I think I was shocked about was I think John Collins not getting an extension because he's
that shocked about John Collins though. Because
why not? Look, he averaged like what, 21?
Yeah, he averaged 20. Yeah, it's the thing that they brought in Gallinari, and with John Collins, the thing is not necessarily someone you can play at the 4. You have to play him at the center. He's a little undersized for the center, and he's not that good defensively. I think that's where the problem comes in this year for the Atlanta Hawks, is that where does everyone fit? You brought in Gallinari, you have John Collins, you brought in Bogdanovic, so now where do they fit? Yeah. That's the problem with the Hawks. So I think you ride out this year with John Collins. I don't know if he starts or if he comes out. I don't know what they do. Personally, like I would start Gallinari, have John Collins come off the bench, but he still plays major minutes.
Right. I mean, I'd still say Gallinari is a better fit off the bench just because he's a better shooter. He's a good post player. I think that in the starting lineup, I think they're going to run a lot more motion offense this year because of the amount of shooters they have now. Right, you have like if they start Bogdanovic, right? He's a great shooter. He's a great pick and roll guy as well, along with Trae Young. He's gonna alleviate some of that pressure. But they still have Hunter or Reddish, Collins, Clint Capella too, right? Those pick and rolls are going to be lethal, but that's also going to lead to a lot more motion on the perimeter, a lot more shooters, a lot more open looks. So I think that if you want to get the best use out of Gallinari, it would make sense to have him off the bench because, of course, he can run lineups with the starters, right? Because he's such a great shooter, but he's also a strong post player. And I think that's a really underrated aspect of his game that you don't see a lot of people talk about, is that his post play is actually amazing. He's tall, but he's really tall for his position, the small forward, power forward spot. And he can just straight up rise over smaller defenders. You saw that a lot in OKC where he would come for the pick with any of the 3 guards on OKC, and then he would post up those smaller men and just rise up over them. I think that's an aspect of his game that the Hawks should look into. And if they want to use that and get more out of it, definitely, I think the bench would be his best spot. Personally, I think.
Yeah,
I think okay, continue.
Yeah, I was about to just talk about Lonzo. Like he has a lot of upside. Like I'm pretty sure that he should also get a nice extension with the Pelicans.
I don't know. Like it's Lonzo's just that he's kind of that player. He works really hard. You know his work ethic is there, right? But it's just that inconsistency. I think he genuinely lacks confidence. There are times last season where Lonzo looked like a star. When his shot is on point, when he's gaining confidence, right? He's a star. He's great defensively. He's a good playmaker, solid slasher, not amazing, but as long as he can shoot, it's okay, right? But I feel like sometimes he was just giving up shots, and he was trying to get his guys going instead of finding his own shot, right? And when he started to take his own shot, right? If the first few missed, he just stopped, right? Yeah. But when he did make those shots, it was helping the team a lot, and he was definitely becoming that star that we all thought he would be. So I think that's why the extension didn't come in for Lonzo. I'm not as surprised about that because I don't think it's the extension didn't happen on the Pelican side. I think it's more on Lonzo's side because I think he believes that he himself can get better, right? And he can get more money in free agency than he would off a rookie extension, to be honest.
So for me, like Lonzo, for this year, he's definitely going to improve defensively because they brought in Stan Van Gundy, who's defensive-minded coach, right?
For sure.
So he's going to improve defensively. I don't know. Like the thing is, I don't know about his offense with Stan Van Gundy. Like, where does he play? How does he play? And they brought in Eric Bledsoe, who's a veteran. Him and Lonzo are pretty much similar in a way. Both are streaky shooters. They're both really good defenders. Lonzo's the better playmaker and rebounder. So I don't know. I don't know how that lineup. I don't know how they work with, because there's a lot of uncertainty because you brought in Steven Adams, you have Jackson Hayes, you have Zion. So I don't know where that shooting comes in, because for Lonzo, you need shooters around him.
Yeah, and I think that they're just banking on him improving his shot in general, right? And kind of being able to form his own shot. Like in college, you know, he was a great shot maker, but he was also a great playmaker, not only for himself, but his teammates, right?
Yeah.
And I think they want him to get back to that guy that, you know, can take pressure off of Ingram and Zion, right? That can run that pick and roll with Adams or Hayes, either or, and find his own shot. Because Adams and Hayes, they can't do anything. They're more rim runners, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Steven Adams can play a little bit in the low post, but they want that Lonzo pick and roll to work with their centers, and he needs to start finding his own extension. Okay, I think Lauri Markkanen, there's not much to say, because I think you just got to throw out the window, because he would just disregarded Markkanen's other aspects of his game. So I think with Markkanen, you're gonna see a lot more of his old, you know, rookie stuff come back, where he was really flourishing under Billy Donovan. I think Donovan's gonna do a much better job of finding a good role for him. And I think that's that, to be honest. I think that's the reason why they just didn't give him the extension, because they don't know yet what's going to happen.
Yeah.
For me, I think the perfect thing to do with Markkanen is do what Billy Donovan did with Gallinari, you know?
Yeah.
Just put him in perfectly, because they can, like, I think Billy Donovan can mold Lauri Markkanen into that Danilo Gallinari guy, so he can play on the perimeter. You can put him in the post a bit, because he's, 7 foot tall?
Yeah.
So, I think he can definitely do work. And then if Wendell Carter, if he can improve his outside game, then you can also have,
you sort of like a dual threat inside, outside.
But you can have Lauri Markkanen, you know, play that inside game as well. I think he has to put on some weight. He has to put on some muscle, because he's pretty thin. I don't think he can.
Yeah, he's a twig.
Yes, I don't think he can match up against other big men, but I think there's potential there.
For sure.
Because of his shooting ability.
Okay, so the next thing would be the fantasy draft, but I think maybe we can leave that for the next episode, because I think we are going a little overhead.
Yeah.
I think we'll leave the fantasy draft. Maybe we'll make an entire episode on it next week.
Sure.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, whatever. Let's just
go straight to the awards, the predictions.